Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm tripping up on the first or second word. Fuck. I'm focused on other things. So, anyways, yeah, it's the podcast. It's Shut Your Mouth Lounge. So, it's me, it's Alex, and I got Addie,
Hi.
and I got Pink.
Hey there.
Yeah, right. Bit of a slow news week this week. Really only two big things worth talking about, at least that I was able to find, though I'm sure that I've missed all kinds of vital stuff. The first topic, I feel like one of these topics is going to be more of a serious debate, and the other one isn't. Or, well, it's difficult to tell. This first topic
We're
that
gonna
I've shown to you guys,
we're gonna debate about the second topic.
we'll probably, yeah, you're right. We'll probably debate more about the second topic than the first topic is probably just going to be us all beating up on Ubisoft. So, Ubisoft has stated that they are finished with finite experiences, as they call it.
Finite, you mean?
No finite.
I've only heard it used as or said as finite.
I've heard it both ways.
I've only ever heard it as finite. Infinite is pronounced, finite, but not finite. Basically, what
Maybe
this,
it's the original thing.
I don't know. Basically, it mean, I'm sure they're French. They probably pronounce it in an even more fucked up way. Finite. So,
It's just fin.
Fin.
The rest are freaking silent.
Yeah. French. Why use one letter when you can use four? So the whole thing there is like they're speaking mostly about Assassin's Creed Odyssey and how they aren't going to really build up the single player campaign to ever have an end. They're going to focus more on like dynamic shit, right? Dynamic quests. But Rainbow Six Siege, I think, is the bigger icon of that. And
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up the article that I've got, just so I'm not going off on a tangent about things it doesn't say. But the long short of it is that, yeah, it says, okay, hang on. Lionel Reynaud, or however you pronounce that.
Renault, I think.
Probably.
Or Renault. We have, there's a car, I think, that's written like that, a car brand. It's Renault.
Right, so he gave like a whole speech apparently. What drove this is the will to not give finite experiences. The idea was that you have this conflict and the resolution, and then it's finished. You've killed the bad guy, for instance. We build a strong nemesis, and the goal of the game is to kill him or free the country. We've done that a few times in our games. But when you succeed, you have to leave the game because there is nothing else to do. So the goal was to break this and say that you will be the hero of a region or population many times, not just once. And if you get rid of a dictator or an oppressor, something else is going to happen in the world, and you will have a new goal. May I say that the way he's saying that, in typical corporate talk, I'm like, sure, yeah, I'd love to have that. Some kind of Shadow of Mordor shit where there's always you've never fully won. There's always a new villain for you to topple, right? But that's not really what it means, of course.
What it means is that we don't really felt like making an actual story, so here have this useless shit.
Have radiant quests or dynamic quests, right? Where no matter what, you can always come back to the same quest giver and he'll say, I want 5 bear asses. Go get the 5 bear asses. And that's it, right?
And that's the best thing about this is that, this is the MMORPG way of giving quests, but this is a single player game.
Yeah. And the Assassin's Creed series has always been story-based. And, I mean, that Shadow of Mordor thing of always setting up new dynamic, properly dynamic, not false corporate talk dynamic, genuine dynamic, new threats, does not necessarily work too well with, Assassin's Creed story. Because why aren't these people interfering with the story or so on and so forth,
Here's the thing, they don't give a shit about the story anymore.
Well, no, they don't. And I think the major thing here is, I think this is basically a way of saying, instead of making new games constantly and each of them getting like 3 or 4 pieces of DLC, we are going to release Odyssey and release a royal shit ton of DLC for it. And a royal shit ton of freemium content for it. And what have you.
And the best thing about all of this is that it just justifies me leaving Assassin's Creed behind even more.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. And you know what my thing here is? He says that
What?
the game is finished once you beat it. I feel like if the game is good enough, then you'll want to play through it again.
I just to just to
Addy,
counterpoint,
Say that,
just to
and
counterpoint.
just now, like just this last week or so, told us that he's beaten like the second Assassin's Creed for the 67th time.
I'm pretty sure that if I were to start another Brotherhood playthrough, it would be like my 19th. So,
Well, I think
like without exaggeration.
Brotherhood is a contender for the best one, though I wouldn't say it's that fucking good.
It's my favorite. It has its freaking problems, but it didn't lock me out of a freaking gameplay mode. Like people hate on the freaking tower defense minigame or in Revelations. I only ever did the freaking tutorial because whenever even when I put my what's it called, my freaking
Are you gonna turn this into a
My
thing of
infant-
shitting on Black Flag ship mechanics again?
no.
I was like, where is it circling around here?
But whenever I raise my infamy, so that, because how the things would have gone on paper is that in Revelations, if you're infamous, then people attack your dance, and then you have to take them back with tower defense. The thing is, whenever there were times where I deliberately raised my infamy, and people never came. So, Brotherhood, us, looking back at it, having played through 90% of the series, I want to say. Like, I haven't played Rogue, I haven't played freaking, what's it called? The one with the woman?
Yes, what was that?
Liberation.
Yes. That
Yeah, I didn't play that.
That's one of the
but
only
but
Assassin's Creed I've ever been interested in.
but I played like basically all of them aside from that, and like looking back at it, Brotherhood might as well have been a DLC for 2, but that's kind of what I like in it, is that it took it took Endgame 2 and what was good about it, and then improved it slightly. And I'd be pissed if that's what a freaking sequel was to a game as well. Yeah, sure, but that's it's still better than ruining basically what the other games have set up.
Well, yeah, the thing with the Assassin's Creed games is that they make one game and then they copy it 2 or 3 times to get the money out of the engine, you know? Because they made Assassin's Creed 2 and then they threw Brotherhood and Revelations on there. They made Assassin's Creed 3 and then threw Black Flag and Rogue on there. They made Unity and threw Syndicate on there, and then everybody lost their shit, so they went ahead and ended the cycle early, made Origins, and now Odyssey is going to be a copy of Origins, but with more RPG basis and less story basis.
But yeah, just going back to when I spoke on the podcast about how I feel and how I went through the 5 stages of grief and shit, I'm just really freaking disappointed that this is how it went down. Like, I'm not angry anymore. Well, I can be angry when people don't understand what's people's problem with, this quote unquote sudden changes, but like, I'm not angry anymore. I don't want them to come back. I'm just disappointed that it ended this way.
Well, my thing here is as gaming franchises come at changing to an uncomfortable level for you, I feel like in this situation you got a lot of the Assassin's Creed games you did love. You got plenty of them, and it didn't feel like the story left particularly loose ends. The Ezio story was open and close. The Edward Kenway story was open and close. Whoever it was from Syndicate and Origins, their stories were open and close. It's not like franchises like Devil May Cry prior to 5, how Devil May Cry 5 prior to Devil May Cry 5, Dante's story was left on a complete loose end. And Dead Space has like a similar thing where their franchise just got fucking murdered, and Dead Space 3 ends on a huge cliffhanger. So, I mean,
freaking huge cliffhangers. We need to come back to that when we speak about what we played.
yeah. Devil May Cry, they got 4 games out of it. Dead Space, they got 3 games out of it. And both of those franchises had one game that was really bad. So, but Assassin's Creed.
I have a game that.
I just want to mention Assassin's Creed. How many Assassin's Creeds have we got that you'd say are good or at least enjoyable Assassin's Creeds?
Well,
they were all terrible.
About 4 or 5.
I'm counting 2, Brotherhood, Revelations. Would you count 3? I like 3, but I know a lot of people do.
I don't like 3.
Let's see.
I like Syndicate.
Syndicate, yeah. You liked Origins as well, right?
It's a thing where I like it as a game, but it's the same thing that I have with Street 4. I like it as a game, just sometimes you have to draw the line between good game and good Assassin's Creed game when looking at something in a series, which is why a lot of times I look at games in series and look at them as here it is in the series, here it is on its own. And on its own, Origins is a pretty good game. I mean, it wasn't really innovative, but it was fun. As an Assassin's Creed game, it went all over the place.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Did you like Unity?
I played through it. I'll probably play through it more than I'll play 3 or maybe even Black Flag just because of the freaking sailing.
My point is though, like Assassin's Creed reached a point where a lot of people were screaming from the rafters to just torch the series. So the fact that they changed, like, on one hand, like, yeah, it sucks because the old Assassin's Creed, we won't be seeing many more that are like them. On the other hand, the old Assassin's Creeds are still there. The passage of time isn't going to change that. They're not the kind of games that will be lost to the sands of time. They'll always be there, and there are enough of them.
My counter argument to this is that we won't see how those mechanics and things could have came to fruition totally.
We wouldn't have if they'd kept doing it either. Because if they would have kept doing it, if they'd have kept releasing games like Unity or Syndicate, they would have come out and they would have all been the same.
But yeah, you said that we won't get any games like that anymore, and that's a lie. There's Ghost of Tsushima. We will get games like that. It just won't be Ubisoft.
You're building yourself up to think that Ghost of Tsushima is something that it's not, man. Because it will have Assassin's Creed-esque elements, but I don't think it will be nearly as stealth-heavy as you may think. And it's not going to have social stealth. Absolutely not. Like,
you're a samurai. I'd say that there it's a bit more justifiable not having social stealth, and also not being a completely different series completely different game for a completely different freaking maker.
Right, but you're going in for Ghost of Tsushima because you think it's going to be Assassin's Creed's continuing, where the Assassin's Creed series itself is kind of bastardized.
Well, yes, I do believe that Ghost of Tsushima can continue what Assassin's Creed started, because, well,
I see it
how can I put this?
I see it being more like if Witcher 3 didn't have shitty combat and had way better graphics.
I didn't see as many RPG elements, and that's one of the big things.
Right, but it'll have the free roam aspect of Witcher 3 and the roaming and that kind of like, you know what I'm going for here, the melee combat style a little bit, like if it wasn't shit.
But yeah, but then you also have the traversal and like kind of parkour.
Yeah, that's a big difference. By cutting out the RPG-ness, they've definitely been able to make the gameplay look more smooth. Because that's always the big problem whenever you introduce RPG traits, is for some reason RPGs have this whole thing of making the games fucking jank as hell.
And from what I could tell, well, from those like what was it, 3 minutes of gameplay that we saw at E3. But from what I could tell, missions could be like the black box missions where in Unity and Syndicate, where you have a chance to decide how you want to play. If you want to play stealthily, then that's an option. If you want to just run in and freaking cut people up, then that might be an option as well.
It might be. It's difficult to make predictions this early, definitely. But what else was it? Right, so the thing here then I want to say though, just a little foreshadowing because we're going to be talking about Devil May Cry a good bit later in this session, or at least I will, and you guys will be forced to listen. But I'm reminded of the old Devil May Cry games, where the Devil May Cry games, they're known for massive difficulty, right? And there's a massive, like, with every Devil May Cry game, there's a new difficulty level added, it feels like. Devil May Cry 1 had your basics. It had, easy, normal, hard, very, very hard, which is just called Dante Must Die. Devil May Cry 2 was shit, so it only had normal, hard, and Dante Must Die. Devil May Cry 3 went to the lengths of having easy, normal, hard, Dante Must Die. I think it went for a level above Dante Must Die, and it implemented my favorite difficulty level, which I haven't got to try yet, but the concept of it just sounds awesome. Heaven or Hell mode, which makes it so that everything in the game dies in one hit, including you and including every boss fight.
Heaven or Hell mode where the game turns into Guilty Gear.
Dude, every time I read that, I hear the announcer in my head going, Heaven or Hell. And then 4 just has an absurd range of difficulties. I can't even remember how many it has, because it has all those that 3 does. Then it has Hell or Hell mode, which is like Heaven or Hell mode, except you're the only one thing that dies in one hit. And it had Legendary Dark Knight mode, where basically every map in the game is filled to the brim with enemies. Ordinarily, you get like 5 enemies per room. Now you're getting 24. It's all elbows and asses in here.
It just spawns you into that freaking Doom bot that was made to test PCs.
Yeah. Get fucked. Alright. So, and the thing is about Devil May Cry is that it is one of the biggest practitioners of the New Game Plus. And in a Devil May Cry game, there are so many unlockables that there's no way you're going to be getting every single unlockable and purchasable on your first playthrough. So Devil May Cry actually encourages you to step up the difficulty by a level and continue to pick up unlockables. And that's one of the ways that it encourages you to go on second playthroughs. Partially because the difficulties actually not only make the enemies tougher and, make you a little bit weaker, but they also go to the lengths of changing several enemies' behavior and adding entirely fucking new enemies. So, for me, the idea Assassin's Creed is pushing of, oh, well, just have people stick on one playthrough for their entirety of playing the game. It's like,
Well, Origins had New Game Plus.
But was there really any encouragement to play it on New Game Plus? Was there any benefit?
One shitty costume.
Oh, well, hot damn, let me just hop on over there. That sold me. I'm gonna play Origins now.
Like, seriously, it's like you have on freaking what? How do you say it in English? ISU? ISU? No idea. Whatever. You have a freaking precursor bloody costume for Bayek. That makes him look like freaking Egyptian Iron Man. And the thing you get for completing the New Game Plus mode is the same costume slightly recolored.
Oh, wonderful. Can you not shoot lasers out of the arms or something?
Nope, it's just a costume. I think you also get like weapons with it, but they're not as good as the ones you pick up along the way.
No, of course they aren't. It seems like New Game Plus, they'd want to give you all the stupid broken shit, right? I'm reminded of Resident Evil 4, where beating the game and going through on New Game Plus unlocks the infinite rocket launcher. Yeah, and the game's considerably less scary when you got a rocket launcher with infinite rockets, let me tell you. What was the thing? Right, but what was I going to say? Crap, there was something I was going to say about Origins with that Iron Man suit that has completely slipped my mind. But wasn't Origins like supposed to be way more fantastical than the other Assassin's Creeds?
Yes, and Odyssey is going even more. Like, in Odyssey, your character just has a piece of Eden, a magical item. With this piece of Eden, which I'm not sure how much you know of the actual deep lore of the freaking series. I know a good bit just because I played through all of them, pretty much. But with these things, usually they only have one thing that they can do really good. So, for example, in Brotherhood, you get the apple at
And
the end, which
apple
is
can mind control people, right?
yeah, and project things that you think and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah, there was also a shroud that can heal people. There was also the sword that can blind people, I think. Well, the one that we saw in gameplay could do that, whatever.
That-
There's stuff like this. So now they added a spearhead. That's a
Hey,
PoE.
hang on, I want
Yeah?
to say something. I'm loving the idea that you impale somebody on a sword and you say, "You're blind now." And they're just going,
No,
"Oh, they got a sword piercing their heart and they're worried about them going blind."
what it does is flash really. What's the word I'm looking for? Bloody hell.
Right?
Yes, bright. It flashes really bright when you kill someone with it in the gameplay. Well, it doesn't do that in the gameplay because bloody by the time you get it, it's actually doesn't have any power. But the one that you get in the gameplay, that's basically another one of those. Whenever you get a kill with the weapon, it blinds the nearby enemies.
Permanently?
Like yeah. But yeah, with this game, they added the spearhead, which can make you invisible. I believe it can make arrows go through walls. It can summon arrows from nothing. It can what else can it do? I don't remember.
Can you
Basically things like this.
can you do arrow? Can you do air combos?
No idea.
Can you juggle people into the air and then keep them in the air by shooting arrows at them?
Probably not.
Can you do a dive kick?
Doubt it.
What I'm saying here is I want Assassin's Creed to turn into Devil May Cry.
But yeah, aside from that, what was I going to freaking say about it? Yeah, it's what replaces the Hidden Blade, which for me is a pet peeve because the Hidden Blade is my favorite weapon in the series, and it's one of the most defining things in the series, and now it's gone for the foreseeable future. But then another thing is that, and this occurred to me like a couple of days ago. Why don't they go back to calling it the Prince of Persia, or better yet, merge the two series since it's going to be fantastical now? Make a game in Persia, call it Assassin's Creed: The Prince of Persia. Make it so the items that the prince picks up in the older games are actually PoEs. You might as well at this point.
I'd actually be pretty happy if they torched Assassin's Creed and changed it for Prince of Persia. If it's more in the line of classic Prince of Persia and not the super edgelord shit we got later on. Looking at you, Warrior Within.
I liked Warrior Within, but then I was like 8.
And a massive edgelord at that. Are you the
You-
person
I
I know
was the-
that your favorite Spider-Man villain is Carnage?
Yes.
Okay. I was confused whether that was you or Soon. I think it may actually be both of you that love Carnage for some reason.
I was actually the most edgiest when I was 8. I was listening to Linkin Park and shit.
That was popular at the time, admittedly.
There are just so many shitty freaking songs that I just remember watching AMVs with before knowing what anime was.
Oh man. Well, yeah, you want to talk about shitty edgelord music from the 2000s? Like, hey, we got Pink with us, so you want to talk about how much you love Breaking Benjamin?
That is not an edgelord band. You keep them out of this.
Ah.
But yeah, another thing that I wanted to bring up is historical accuracy, or lack thereof, I guess. Because, you know,
Suplex Socrates.
I wish. I could actually take that.
Do a pile
I
driver
actually want
Alexander
that.
the Great.
No, but that would be fun.
I should note, pile driver is both a wrestling move and a sex position, so that is a double entendre.
It only works when you're Cassandra.
Yeah.
But anyway, what they did is that, well, I think one of the writers came out and just said that we thought about writing a story, and then we went, okay, but what if people complain? So we just made it so both genders are in the game and just wrote one story. Because, what's more interesting? Making it so you're the same sex as the character you're playing, or making it so, say, having a female protagonist actually actually have to do stuff so they'll get accepted into the freaking the society that's rejecting them because they're actually doing what men could do.
I like how you kept going, even though I brought up that picture to distract you. I'm for a Assassin's Creed female protagonist because I don't really mind.
They wasted one of the most, or what's the word I'm looking for? Bloody hell. There was a female protagonist that they could have had that they wasted on a Chronicles game. And I was really interested in it because...
Was that the Russian chick, or was that the Chinese
No.
chick?
That was the Chinese chick.
Right. Well, something tells me, like, Assassin's Creed isn't going to set... I'll be honest here, this is going to, like... This may be, like, dismissing humanity, or at least Americans, too much, but I feel like... Or definitely the French. Which, God forbid, the French may be racist, who'd have thought, but... I feel like the French wouldn't be... Not just the French, but I feel like the Ubisoft wouldn't be interested in setting an Assassin's Creed game in China, because it'd just be too... There's always a thing with setting, games in Eastern locales and then trying to sell them as ultra-mainstream games,
Yeah.
I always kind of expect people to be awkwardly, like, subconsciously racist,
Yeah.
At least in the common populace.
Like Xiao Jun, I was really interested in what her story would be in her own game because they set her up as like the last people Ezio mentored, and then they give her a 2.5D platformer.
Were you wanting it just so you could get another Ezio game?
No, I was interested in what the box was that he gives her.
Ah.
And we never found out, by the way. I don't think.
It's probably a hidden blade.
She already had one in her shoe.
Another hidden blade.
A shinier one.
I think I'm not sure.
And
Maybe it was going to be the Kohinoor.
And it'll come with a little tag that says, "Meet me in my room tonight."
People were before I think it was before the other trilogy or the Chronicles games came out. The people just said whenever people asked what was in the box, people just said Ezio's dick.
Yeah, that sounds like something Ezio would do. Jesus.
Yeah, 65-year-old or however old he was when he died.
Look, you say that like it wouldn't stop him.
I mean, shit, he impaled a guy in full freaking knight armor.
He impaled a guy? Is that what you said?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That is okay. Speaking of double entendres, I guess.
I didn't say what he impaled him with.
There we go. I was hoping you'd catch it. So I brought up a little picture, and it's probably gonna go up already on the podcast video. But for some reason, Arby's is building a fucking statue of Nightmare out of Arby's boxes. Is this the new Nightmare armor? Is this what we're getting as his alternate costume in Soul Calibur 6?
Arby's, like...
With Soviet Nightmare, Arby's eats you.
They're putting their advertisements into the next Soul Calibur.
Yeah. Dude,
the game opens with Killick's kid eating Arby's.
You haven't played Tekken yet, dude. Tekken Tag Tournament 2, and you have played Tekken, but have you looked in the customization menu?
I've not.
Tekken 7 has an atrocious amount of advertisements for, like, weird Japanese shit built in. Like, there's a
Like
whole
the Bullet
thing.
Club.
Yes, Bullet Club, and there's some Japanese clothing brand with a frog or some shit. And, like, there's tons of sweatpants and t-shirts for it.
There's also the taiko drums.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, and there, like, of course, there's all kinds of NJPW stuff on top of that, like King being able to dress up like
Okada, I want to
Okada.
say.
Yeah, I was considering trying to say his first name, but I decided against it.
I don't even know his first name, so
I think it's Kazuchika, but I probably mispronounced it.
Kazuchika Okada.
Yeah, Kazuchika. Whatever.
Kazuchika.
Yeah, whatever.
I think that's how you say it. I have easier freaking time. No idea what that was. But
Oh,
yeah,
it's a gunshot. Your neighbor just
I
got
think
mowed down.
there are no guns in Hungary.
That's what you want to think. Like, that stops criminal.
Okay, it was my night. But anyway, I think I have an easier time pronouncing Japanese shit just because some pronunciations are closer to Hungarian than English.
Mm.
I'd say it's a weird mix of both, but at the same time.
Oh, okay. The thing I love about this little picture is it fucking says, help us build Nightmare from Soul Calibur 6 by adding your own piece to the cape. You could score a fast pass to play the Soul Calibur 6 demo. Like, firstly, asking for anybody in the audience to contribute is just begging for shit quality. Like, so the Nightmare statue is gonna be amazing until you get to the cape, and then the cape just fucking sucks. Also, there's something hilarious about buying Arby's and probably just dumping out the food that's inside the box and then throwing it on a statue and being like, now I get to play Soul Calibur 6. Huh?
Oh, yeah. I guess it wouldn't be so bad if I were to do it, because I'm not a big fan of Arby's anyway.
You also know that somebody's gonna go and freaking draw a dick on it.
And then get escorted out by security? I mean, it looks like it's in a position where people are looking at it. I'd like to see the guy try. Then he gets tased. Yeah. So the second topic was Steve Ditko, the original creator of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, The Question, Squirrel Girl, Hawk and Dove, and The Creeper, and Mr. A, has passed away, sadly. And it's more awkward for me to talk about because I've never read any Steve Ditko.
Oh.
Like, I don't know. I've heard lots of great things about classic Spider-Man. I've also heard lots of awful things about the way he wrote Question back in the day. Because he very much made Question as a political character to fit his own worldview. Which is why Alan Moore subsequently parodied The Question and Mr. A with the character of Rorschach.
Yeah. Mr. A was his political character. Question probably only had like maybe 4 appearances in his entire run over in Charlton, and I don't think he got into any politics over there. But he was also always political, so there probably was that undertone there.
Yeah, I think Question's whole thing, I definitely remember hearing like it was supposed to be a big thing when Question was invented, because in his like first issue, two thugs are about to be run over by like flooding sewers or something.
Yeah.
And Question just leaves them to die, because apparently that was the objectivist thing to do. And that was viewed as, whoa, because that was a time when, like, Punisher was innovative, you know?
Yep.
And whereas Mr. A, absolutely political, head to fucking toe.
Yeah.
DC was able to bring Question into their universe and get away with it. I don't think anyone now, any modern writer or publisher would ever be interested in working with the character of Mr. A.
No, probably not.
Nah. But it does feel sad, like, obviously because, you know, Ditko and Kirby were two guys that kind of got fucked over by Stan Lee. But it's also, like, kind of sad to see it just because the modern Marvel movies, you can tell Ditko's influence. Because Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are huge characters. Spider-Man's always been huge, but Doctor Strange is getting bigger by the day, partially thanks to the movie.
Yep. Like, I don't know if you've seen my signature on the forum yet, but that Spider-Man sequence that I have right now,
Yes,
it
the classic sequence that they included in Homecoming, right?
Yep, they've done it in Homecoming. They did it in Spectacular Spider-Man, I believe. It is one of Spider-Man's most iconic moments in all of comics. Has been used probably everywhere, any chance they've gotten. It's like Steve Ditko contributed so much to Spider-Man, so it is very sad to see that he's finally gone.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where it felt like Ditko should have passed away a long time ago, but he kept on trucking.
Yeah, 90 years old. He was probably still doing comics at the same time, though.
I don't know, did he retire from comics? I felt like he retired after the whole thing of, like, well, because of his politics.
He's self-published for the most part.
Oh, that makes sense. It's difficult to really look up what was up with Ditko, partially because Ditko was, like, well known for being such a private person.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be surprised if there's any video footage of his face ever. Or a photo of him that's been taken in the last 30 years, you know?
Yep. There are photos of him, like we've got one right here now, but it's like cameras weren't all that common back in the day. And, you know, as he got older and times changed, and when we did get cameras out here, like in commonplace, it's like he was already basically a recluse at that point, so I doubt there's really any photographic evidence of him, and he wouldn't have wanted it anyway because he was always that guy who wanted his artwork to speak for him.
Yeah, I definitely remember there was a thing I watched after Harlan Ellison passed away. I watched a little video. It was some special he did in the mid '80s over like talking about major comic book writers and artists. And I remember because like each segment would have Harlan Ellison talking about what the writer or artist is famous for, and then it would cut to an interview with that writer or artist. And I remember, like, because it was made at the time Jack Kirby was still alive, and it was strange because it was the only time I've ever seen actual video footage of Jack Kirby. And it's a whole thing of Jack Kirby talking about the way he cosmically views things and how that inspired new gods or whatever. Then it moves on to Frank Miller, and it's the strangest thing, like, at least for me, because I'm young and it's 40 years later, but Harlan Ellison talks about Frank Miller as the upcoming young gun of the comic book industry. Last year's smash hit Dark Knight Returns, and I'm like, oh man. And then it cuts to the interview with Frank Miller. I didn't know that Frank Miller, like, I associate the look for Frank Miller as the look he has now. The fedora and the little goatee and mustache with the glasses and the kind of small, unimposing individual, unremarkable individual. No, it cuts to the interview with like a shockingly young Frank Miller. He has no facial hair, and he has long ass, like full on hair, like hippie hair, like something you'd expect more out of like Alan Moore, you know? I was like, man, it was the 80s. But when it got to Steve Ditko, there was no video footage of him. They were able to get him to give an audio recording, but there was no, the video itself was just panning over his comic book panels.
Yep. That was Ditko.
And the funny thing was, like, Miller was just basically talking about how he felt comic books work with vigilantism and right-wingism. Kirby talked about how he cosmically views the world and how he thinks the new god should fit into the cosmic order. Steve Ditko gets on the fucking mic, and he just spends the entire time talking about Ayn Rand. Well, there we go. I'll have to link you that Harlan Ellison thing. I don't know. Have you ever seen it?
I might have.
All right. But, like, yeah, Ditko was definitely a guy with some oddities. There's a particularly infamous early issue of the Spider-Man run where Spider-Man passes by some college protesters, because it was the 60s, college protesters were everywhere, and Spider-Man thinks spitefully of them. And he thinks of them like, oh, what fucking lazy bums and troublemakers. It's like, okay, Spider-Man, you hero. As we all know, Spider-Man's a big fan of Jim Crow laws and the Vietnam War. Uh, but regardless of the man's flaws, he was an excellent writer. He was a flawed man, absolutely. Every writer is flawed. And it's sad to see him go. I do want to go ahead and link that into the, carry it over into the topic for what we've done in the last week. Because I got to read some of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Which, for those who don't know, Alan, you probably have heard of the movie from 10 years ago, starring Sean Connery. But it was originally based off...
I forgot that was a thing.
It was. Sean Connery also would like to forget it was a thing, because the movie just absolutely bombed. It's one of those oddball movies that most people generally agree is shit, but then it has a very vocal minor fan base. And that includes my mom. My mom fucking loves League of Extraordinary Gentlemen for some reason. And it was based off a comic originally. The comic is generally pretty better, though my memory of the movie is shaky. But it was written by Alan Moore. Alan Moore is the same guy who wrote Watchmen, The Killing Joke, Swamp Thing, some of the classic Captain Britain stories. Like, he even wrote for, 2000 AD back in the day, that crazy-ass British indie comic. So, Alan Moore is probably one of the most reputed and respected writers in comics. He's also a writer that has a certain flaw that is noticeable in every single one of his works. Alan Moore has an uncomfortable obsession with rape. Every single Alan Moore story that I have ever read has included a rape scene. And I've never been able to figure it out. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is kind of the worst about it. Because characters that were otherwise portrayed as sympathetic in the movie, and in the comic book, not so much. So we've got the Invisible Man, right? The whole team, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, is composed entirely of, late 19th century, early 20th century literature heroes, right? So we've got our team of Mina Harker from the Dracula books. We've got Alan Quatermain from the old Pulp Fiction stories. We got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We got the Invisible Man, and we got Captain Nemo from however many leagues under the sea. I forget how many leagues it was supposed to be. Invisible Man, they're going around trying to recruit everybody for the team. They find Invisible Man at a girls' school raping teenage girls.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And because it's supposed to be old-styled, everyone just kind of plays it off as, oh, that's just Invisible Man, he does that. You kind of cheer for Captain Nemo when Captain Nemo's like, I'm not letting that guy on my ship. What the fuck? And Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde murders prostitutes, and it's implied that he also rapes them. And later in the storyline, when Invisible Man betrays the team for the Martians, which, yeah, the Martians from War of the Worlds, believe it or not, they're there too. Invisible Man betrays them to the Martians, so Mr. Hyde rapes Invisible Man to death.
What a way to go.
Yeah. And that's like a modicum of the rape in that book. And it was always noticeable with Alan Moore, because you can go back and read Watchmen. There's the famous comedian raping Sally scene. You can go back to Killing Joke, and people have always theorized that Joker rapes Barbara after crippling her. However, Alan Moore says that Joker did not rape Barbara, but the circus freaks did rape Jim Gordon. Which, wow, that turns that scene on its head, don't it? And Swamp Thing had a downright disgusting example where the villain, what's his name? Anton Arcane, possesses his niece's husband and then rapes her. And so it's like this. I want to really say Alan Moore's one of my favorite authors, but it's so awkward saying it because there's so many stories he's written that I'm embarrassed of in that regard.
Yeah.
Because, otherwise, he's one of the best authors comic books I've ever seen. But he has that weird obsession. And, I believe Grant Morrison, which, Grant Morrison can be a guy that's also quirky and has a lot of flaws as a writer. Not nearly the level of writer Alan Moore is, But Grant Morrison at least had the balls to say, yeah, Alan Moore's rape obsession is really uncomfortable. And Alan Moore's justification, his defense was, we see a lot of physical violence in comic books, why not sexual violence? Which is the worst justification I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
Like, because we have this, why not have this? Well,
I think people are just on a basic level just more comfortable with people punching each other. I mean, I should hope so anyway.
yeah. I guess his idea there was he thought the lack of rape in comics was unrealistic, maybe? But even then, like, yeah, the lack of people taking a shit in comics is also unrealistic. How many times have you seen Spider-Man in the bathroom? Like, you can't just go off of, oh, well, there's some elements that are left out of the stories. Some elements are left out of stories either because they do not matter, and some elements are left out of stories because they're really fucking uncomfortable.
We don't want those elements there.
I mean, on a similar basis, like, how many times have you seen Clark Kent and Lois Lane in bed properly doing it? You don't. And, like, I'm sure Alan Moore is also pissed about that, knowing who Alan Moore is. And then Alan Moore would turn it to a creepy rape or BDSM scene, because that's Alan Moore. But otherwise, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, better than the book. Because on one hand, it's an Alan Moore book, so everybody is an asshole. Except for the leading chick. There's an Alan Moore trope for you. The leading chick never has any serious opinions on anything, never debates anything. So she's usually the one that it's like, well, she's not an asshole, so I'm not opposed to her, but at the same time, I never really find myself agreeing with her. The other ones are more opinionated, so like Watchmen, you find yourself agreeing with one more than the others. You know, everyone reads Watchmen and they're either like, oh, I like Night Owl, or oh, I like Rorschach, or oh, I like Ozymandias. I went into League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and I was like, yeah, I like Captain Nemo, fuck everyone else. Because on one hand, Captain Nemo is kind of racist against the English, because he's Indian, and that was a point in time where the Indians were being occupied by the English. And that sucks. But on the other hand, Nemo never gives a shit and says what's on his mind, and sometimes you just gotta love that. I've also watched... Oh crap, what movie did I watch? Yes, I watched The Disaster Artist. Which, it came out last year. Well, technically, I think it was screened 2 years ago or something. But it's the movie about The Room. Which I know this
I'm back.
I was about to say, this is the part where Addie comes back.
Like Addie heard The Room and popped in immediately.
Tommy Wiseau's magnetism, Addie can't escape it. So, it's the movie where James Franco portrays Tommy Wiseau, and his idiotic brother that nobody likes, Dave Franco, portrays Greg Sestero. And it's about the making of The Room. It's like, the first half of the movie, though, very much is not about the making of The Room at all. It's about Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero's friendship, and they're building up to the decision to make The Room. Then the latter half is about making The Room, and that's kind of when Tommy Wiseau as a person is supposed to fall apart, you know, and show his true colors of being a absolutely lunatic fucking monster. So, I don't know how accurate it is. It sounds pretty accurate to me. I'd assume so, at least partially because both Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero worked on the movie. The actual people, I mean. And
I mean, I know that Tommy Wiseau went around the showings in America.
Yes,
I believe
he absolutely did. When James Franco won, I think the Golden Globe for Best Comedic Actor, he took Tommy Wiseau up to the stage with him, and Tommy Wiseau nearly gets on the mic, and I swear to God, James Franco fucking shoulder tackles him out of the way to keep him off the mic and prevent him from saying anything stupid.
he probably would have just said, "You're tearing me apart."
Shut up.
Pink will never understand. Pink sometimes will need to watch The Room.
No,
Ignorance is bliss.
you can catch the highlights, trust me. It's a painfully awkward movie to get through. So just go with the highlights. My favorite scene will always be like everyone loves "You're Tearing Me Apart," Lisa. My favorite is still I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Mine is the "Oh Hi Doggy."
Hi, doggy.
But like how obviously dubbed over and how awkwardly put together those lines are.
Yes. Oh, you know the other good one is when Mark's telling the story of the woman who got beat up and sent to the hospital by her ex-boyfriend, and then Tommy goes, what the story, Mark?" And it's like, you're laughing at that? What the fuck? Ah. And the great thing is, like, all throughout the movie, you have the director being played by Seth Rogen, or, well, was he a producer or director? I don't fucking know. And throughout the entire movie, where Greg Sestero, Dave Franco's character, accepts Tommy Wiseau's bizarre bullshit and his complete insanity and his occasional monstrous moments, the director accepts none of it. And it's great because nearly every time Tommy Wiseau does something really stupid or really awful, Seth Rogen's character just goes, "What the fuck?" And I don't like Seth Rogen usually, like, because he's one of the least varied actors on Earth, but he's very good as a straight man. I'll say that. Because
he's fed up with his world.
Yeah.
and doesn't love Tommy Wiseau as a bean.
The great thing there is when they have Tommy Wiseau doing the death scene and he's humping the dress, right? Humping upwards. It cuts to the actress who is playing Lisa, and she says, "Oh man, I wanted to take that dress." It's generally a pretty good movie. I'll definitely say that. Nothing exceptional, but it's fun as a look behind the scenes at it. And it's definitely one of those cases where you end up forming your own opinion of Tommy, whether you think Tommy is like a passionate, genuinely trying to be artist, good guy with some serious flaws, or whether you think Tommy's a complete piece of shit who just thinks he's the greatest. I fit into the latter group. I do want to say Dave Franco, I really don't care for Dave Franco. I really don't. It's obvious they just cast him because it was already a James Franco project, and James Franco wanted to get all of his friends on set. So he cast his brother as Greg Sestero. And they cast his best bud Seth Rogen as the director. And then, you know who he cast as Greg Sestero's wife? Fucking Dave Franco's wife. How about that? I bet that was...
I thought you were going to say Dave Franco.
Oh, that would have been even better. But yeah, I imagine that was a difficult performance for those two. Alright, you two, husband and wife. You're going to have to pretend to be husband and wife for a little bit. I know it's going to be difficult.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they spend most of their time strangling each other.
If that's what they get off to, then they're welcome to it, I suppose.
I hear auto asphyxiation is freaking fresh this time of the year.
Fresh. You make it sound like it's a crop. Oh, we need to wait for autoerotic asphyxiation season. It's not ripe yet. Jesus. So yeah, that was an alright movie. And did I play a game this week? I started Heavy Rain because Heavy Rain was given out for free on PS Plus. And my god, what the fuck was David Cage thinking with those controls?
Is that the one with Sean? Or not Sean?
Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
Jason. Yeah. That part's the best because you can keep pressing the Jason button even during cutscenes.
Somehow we need to hack it so that you can say Jason whenever.
There is actually a bug that can cause that to happen, where throughout the entire game,
yes,
Ethan can just go Jason.
That works better in the sex scene.
Oh no, it doesn't. It's so much worse. No, that's his kid. Anyways. Yeah, Heavy Rain, probably the least shit David Cage game, so I'm interested to go through it, but the controls, like, what the fuck? So you've played games where holding A causes your character to turn from walking to sprinting, right? You've all played Arkham at some point, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so imagine if it did that but with walking instead of running, where if you didn't press the button down, your character just fucking stands still and looks around like a dipshit.
Ah.
And imagine it's not A, and it's not X, it's the fucking right trigger. Yeah. Not exactly
Race car.
Okay, you say that. Now I'm gonna play Heavy Rain, and when I'm walking around, I'm gonna go vroom vroom.
You cut out.
Whatever, it was a stupid joke, anyways. So that's not exactly the natural button to hold whenever you're just trying to get a character to walk.
Yeah.
That entire game's controls are built around the system of basically making every mundane action as difficult as possible. Like putting down
Go ahead.
plates. Putting down plates, by the way, you have to hold down like left trigger, X, and A in Xbox terms.
Can you not even feel like freaking washing yourself or something?
Technically, there's some actions that you can't fail because, like, it works on a basis of are you doing it or are you not doing it? You know, it's just a simple go to the sink, press the button to brush your teeth. That's it.
You accidentally hit your teeth out with the toothbrush.
The great thing is figuring out in that game what reactions do I not have to really pass. Like going down a muddy hill during the middle of a slow investigation, not urgently at all. Okay, time for me to fail these cutscenes, fail these QTEs, and watch my character just tumble down the hill and eat shit.
And then kill
Highly
themselves.
professional.
Yeah. Dude, could you imagine if fucking up that QTE like caused your character to break his neck, and it's just like immediately like dead? You thought this was You thought this was a safe scene to lose the QTE? You thought there would be no consequences? No, fucking dead.
Kaizo Rain.
The fact that Detroit then goes to lengths to introduce a new character that gets resurrected every time he dies, I hope there's all kinds of stupid ways you can die in Detroit. I've not played it, and I probably won't play it for like 5 years until they give it away for free. But, like, I hope that you can fuck up, like, you can get a random QTE while just walking along, and if you fuck up the QTE, your character trips over his own feet and then breaks his neck. Whoopsie doodles, guess I'm dead again.
Yeah, they're gonna partner with freaking Ubisoft. Make it so you can wear a Kenny hoodie.
Oh, man. Fucking Ubisoft. I never checked. Is there a South Park item in Rainbow Six Siege now?
Not yet.
I feel like they'd want to hold off on that just because, you know, what if the South Park license runs out? Will they have to take the South Park item out of Siege? And then what if people paid money for it? Will they get angry that they got gypped out of it? You know, I just said gypped, and it dawned on me, gyp is probably, like, as a verb, is probably
It's short for gypsy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a racial slur. It just now dawned on me. I probably shouldn't say that. Because that's a racial slur.
I'm the resident gypsy. I don't care.
Oh, man, America has worse ones. I've been told by my parents, back in the day, that kind of thing wouldn't have been called getting gypped. They would have called it Indian giving.
Ah,
Yeah.
I see.
Because once upon a time, we didn't view Native Americans the way we do now. Because modern Americans, we probably view Native Americans as like noble warriors of the plains, right? And once upon a time, we didn't look at them that way. We looked at them as the villains of John Wayne flicks.
The only thing I know about Native Americans is like odd freaking like I think I'm not sure if he even existed, but one that everybody seems to know in Hungary was like Winnetou.
Manitou, yeah, he would have been one of the gods of one of the Native American tribes. I forget which Native American religion would have been believed in him. But I think didn't Manitou actually get turned into a Marvel superhero at some point?
Not Manitou, Winnetou.
Winnetou, never heard of him.
Okay, I think like his brother was like an American called Old Shatterhand or something.
I have not heard of these people. When I think of Native American historical figures, I think of Tecumseh or Sitting Bull, but I've never heard of those guys.
I'm not sure if they even existed. I'm just saying that they are the go-to in Native American people to go to in Hungary.
I want it to turn out that you're actually getting real life people confused with like JoJo characters or something.
Yes, the freaking Axel Rose, the Native American leader.
The famous Italian historical figure Ario Speedwagon.
Yeah,
Anime is stupid.
RTO Speedwagon.
God. Alright.
She is one, yes.
So, what I was getting back to, in the continuing saga of me playing through Devil May Cry to get hyped up for Devil May Cry 5, I have played through Devil May Cry 2 this past week. It is universally considered the weakest entry in the Devil May Cry series, possibly even worse than the reboot. And when I played through the game, like when I was 12 or 13, I didn't get it. Now I fucking get it. Because first things first, the game is a fucking cakewalk. In a way that just feels patronizing. Because the other Devil May Cry games, the difficulty is a big part. But it's not like Dark Souls where the difficulty feels like a fuck you. It feels better, like it's a difficulty that instead makes it feel like you're challenged, but at the same time, when you win a fight, it's like, yeah, I'm a badass, you know? When games actually like have the difficulty properly balanced like that, Devil May Cry 2, at no point do you ever feel threatened by the enemies. Because there's two kinds of enemies. There's actually like 30 different kinds, but they all can basically be divided up into two groups. They don't act that different. Enemies that have quick little attacks that are barely telegraphed and deal almost no damage. Enemies that have heavily telegraphed moves that deal some damage but not a lot. And so you just wipe the floor with them. And the thing here about Devil May Cry 2 is, after Devil May Cry 1, there is a simple 20 mission campaign, and you could only play as Dante. People got angry about this because the character of Trish was present in the game. You guys may have know Trish from the Marvel vs. Capcom games, correct?
Yeah.
Right. People were angry that she wasn't playable, so Devil May Cry 2 instead had one 18-mission campaign as Dante and one 13-mission campaign as his new chick, Lucia. So, and by the way, there's a weird thing about Devil May Cry. Dante always has like a chick co-star in every game, and never are they actually his love interest. So we've never actually seen Dante with a love interest in these games, which gets really fucking weird.
I think they made Lady his love interest in the anime.
They probably hinted at it a little bit, because they hinted at it a little bit in 3, but nothing ever came of it. And like, definitely by the time of 4, Dante and Lady are not in a romantic relationship by any means.
Well, I wouldn't know if they actually hinted at it or anything because I still haven't watched the anime series. I just have all of it right next to me.
It also may not be a romantic relationship at all. They could just be fucking. So, I don't know. I don't know anything about the anime other than, like, Dante's personality is really exaggerated and he owes Lady money for something or something. It's stupid. So anyways, Devil May Cry 2, you add the 18 missions of Dante's campaign plus the 13 missions of Lucia's campaign, and that builds up to, like, 31 or 32 levels, right? That is way fucking more than that game deserves. So there's a thing with Devil May Cry. The melee always needs to be better than the guns. Firstly, because the guns are like Resident Evil guns. They auto-lock onto the enemies. So, using your guns is as simple as hold down the lock-on button and mash the fucking gun button. That's it. So it needs to deal almost no damage, or else there's never any reason to not use the guns, right? The swords need to deal more damage, and the swords need to have a variety of moves to build up your combo meter. The higher your combo meter is, the more money and health items you get from enemies when they die. The melee in Devil May Cry 2, you've got your basic combo, you've got a couple different flavors of your basic combo that do nothing, don't change anything, and the style meter, the combo meter, don't treat them as different combos, so you can't mix them up to build up bigger and better style meter combos. And you get 2 special moves. That's it. And the sword deals less damage than the guns. And here's the thing about the first Devil May Cry. There were 2 weapons you could unlock throughout the game. You had the sword, but you could eventually unlock the gauntlets, which allowed Dante to fight with hand-to-hand. Devil May Cry 2, there's no such thing. You get the sword, and you get 2 different alternative, basically just different looks for the sword. That's it. So making combos, building up the style meter in Devil May Cry 2, nearly impossible. Partially because they took away the taunt button. The taunt button is a very important part of Devil May Cry, because the taunt button fits Dante's personality. You guys all know Dante's a huge asshole, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
That's a big part of what makes the character fun. Because, a lot of video game heroes are like, they're stern and they're quiet and whatever. Dante ain't. Dante is big, he is absurdly powerful, and he's trying to have a good time with it. And Devil May Cry 2, Dante has no taunt button, and in cutscenes, he's, for some reason, really quiet and dour and serious and silent for some fucking reason. So, there's no reason for you to ever use the sword, so just sit on the other side of the screen, hold down the lock-on button, and mash the gun button. And 90% of the time, that is the most effective solution. Boss fights, mostly just all pieces of cake. There's a couple of them that are a bit difficult, unless you just use the guns. They're difficult if you try to use the melee, but you can just shoot them from the other side of the screen, and the boss fight's over. Well, what the fuck? And the level design just... the puzzles are awful, and Devil May Cry does not have good puzzles, but the puzzles just don't work. They're either stupidly simplistic or very deliberately annoying. The movement in that game, fucking hell. So, I want to hear something from you guys. I think that it's the fucking worst when the fastest mode of travel in a game is the dodge button.
Yes.
When the fastest way to get from point A to point B is mash dodge and have your character fucking roll to that point.
Yes, I agree.
That's the worst. Like, because firstly, it hurts your fucking finger having to mash dodge. Secondly, it's annoying. Thirdly, it looks hideous doing it because your character looks like a dumbass just constantly dodge rolling forwards. Fourthly, it's annoying from an audio perspective because you're constantly hearing Dante go, huh, 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 huh. It's like, shut the fuck up.
He's just laying the beat for the next rap track.
Yeah. And Devil May Cry 2 has that dodge thing going on bad. So that raises, of course, the inevitable question of how do you deal with that problem, right? And every Devil May Cry game has had an alternative solution. Devil May Cry 1 had the Stinger move, which was the move you would use for the mode of transportation most of the time, but it usually would cover the entire screen with one move, so it never really got annoying because you just fly there. It's a little bit more forgivable when the fucking move covers the entire screen. Devil May Cry 3 made it where the dodges, firstly, have a little bit of invincibility on them, but are not as fast as the proper walk cycle your character has. So you're still going to use the dodges to get out of the way of strikes because of the invincibility frames that give you a little bit more leeway, but you'll use the walk cycle for actually getting from point A to point B because the dodges stop at the end of every dodge. Devil May Cry 4 just introduced a fucking sprint feature where for the longer you run, the faster your run gets. And it's just incredible to me that they never thought to put any of that into Devil May Cry 2. And Dante's campaign, the story, makes no sense. Partially because it's supposed to be... They made it in a way where it feels like you should be playing it alongside Lucia, but the way they structured the gameplay, they make it where you should play through Dante's campaign first and Lucia's campaign second. Beating the Dante campaign gives you a little thing saying, congratulations on beating the Dante campaign, now try Lucia's campaign, and that's it. So that they try to encourage you to do that, but several of the vital plot details are on Lucia's side. It gets particularly egregious when the major twist of Lucia's campaign is spoiled near the end by Lucia just saying the twist out loud. Which, it's a 10-year-old game, I don't mind spoiling it. So the major twist is that Lucia thinks she's human, she's actually a demon. Dun dun dun, whatever. And she asks Dante, near the end of Dante's campaign, she asks him to kill her so that she doesn't have to deal with being a demon anymore. It's like, well, there goes the main twist of the Lucia campaign, no reason for me to play through that. Dante, the final boss, he does not fight the main villain. Now, it makes more sense on one regard, because Lucia should fight the main villain, because the main villain is more so her nemesis than Dante's. But, Dante, instead, his final boss, a portal to hell opens up for no reason. It just opens up in the middle of the fucking street, and Dante goes in the portal, and there's a big blob made out of all the boss fights you've had so far, and some bizarre Devil May Cry 1 boss fights thrown in haphazardly. And it's one of the most lazy final boss fights I've ever seen, because each part of the blob that's imitating a boss just reuses that boss's attacks. And that's the fight. You beat him, you get to the second stage, and the second stage is just a generic fire angel or some shit. So Dante gets a horrifically underwhelming boss fight, and then he says he's going deeper into hell, for no reason. Which, by the way, that is where the original Devil May Cry series ended on a cliffhanger, because Devil May Cry 2 is chronologically the latest game in the series. So the last we saw of Dante prior to Devil May Cry 5 is Dante just going into hell, and that's it. And the thing I should note is, Devil May Cry 3 and Devil May Cry 4 are both prequels because they fucked up Dante's personality so much. Not only does he not have most of his signature one-liners, his mouthiness, his arrogance, his taunts, but for some reason they also made it where he gets a coin that he flips, and whenever people ask him to help, he flips the coin to determine whether or not he'll help them. This is something that Dante has never done in any other game, nor has there even been a slightest mention of it or indication of it.
Does at one point, does he get his half his face torn off by acid at one point?
Probably, but the thing is, Dante's got like Deadpool level regeneration, so it would have just grown back.
Then we figured it out. It's just Harvey Dent dressed as Dante.
Yes. There's a part in Devil May Cry 3 that I always laugh at, because he catches Lady, and Lady at that point hates him. And Dante's the only thing keeping Lady from falling to her death, but she shoots him in the face anyways. And Dante's reaction to getting shot square in the middle of the forehead is just, seriously? Like, I fucking love when they do that. Like, oh, come on, you gotta make it trouble. But, yeah, anyways, with Devil May Cry 2, moving on to Lucia's campaign. Lucia's campaign, slightly better. In that it's much shorter, thank fucking God. And her gameplay style, unlike Dante's, was actually built for the way this game tries to handle the gameplay. But this game's gameplay style is shit to begin with, so it doesn't really help that much. And the plot makes a bit more sense for Lucia, because several of the major plot details are on her side and not Dante's. And she's the one who ends up fighting the main villain, not Dante. So that's like, yeah, it feels more narratively alright. And the final boss of her campaign very clearly had much more work put into it. Like, the last stage of the boss fight feels like something straight out of Resident Evil, or Resident Evil 2 at least, in terms of the gross biological transformation shit going on. But there is one big problem with Lucia's campaign. Water levels.
Oh, the greatest.
I've done a pretty good job in my life of avoiding games with notorious water levels. I don't know how I did it, I don't know why I did it, but I was able to do it. So, whenever people bitch about water levels, I'm normally not the kind that joins in. I'm like, whatever. Devil May Cry 2, Lucia's water levels are the fucking worst. Let me ask you guys, what would you say Devil May Cry is most well known for?
Dante?
Combo system thing.
Big, spectacular, fast-paced combos. So what's the best way to ruin that? Putting it underwater where everything is slow as fuck. So, all of your attacks are stupidly slow. So slow that they will never combo. Ever. the enemy recovers before you do as well. Several of the enemies, or at least one of the enemies that you face underwater, recovers from your attack so fast that in the time you take to recover from the attack you threw out, he will get a free attack on you. So, when you're underwater, just use guns. Following the pattern from Dante, just use the fucking gun.
I was about to say, that's the point where you take out the pistol.
Yeah, no fucking kidding. And here's the thing. There's a boss fight in the water levels. And it's the worst thing. Firstly, because it spends the entire first half of the fight invisible. And when it's invisible, you can't lock on to shoot at it. You just shoot in a general direction. So it's a stupid fight where you catch yourself just generally shooting in one direction and hoping that he passes by. And the gun deals more damage than melee, but still not very much. So the boss fight takes for fucking ever. Oh, and here's the thing, another thing about underwater using melee or guns. Because it's operating in a 3D space, where for the most part, Devil May Cry, technically you can jump and all that, but like it mostly works on a 2D space, because most of the enemies can't jump or fly, right? Right. So there's not too much like, you don't have to adjust for the third dimension there. You don't have to strike up or down so much as you do left, right, or forward. And so, when you go underwater, where things can be on an entirely different level of the third dimension for you, that means that most of your shit's gonna miss because you were slightly too high up in the water or slightly too low in the water. And I think we all know that feeling from games where you swim or fly. Especially because it's still using the Resident Evil camera. So you get an awful perspective of whether or not you're perfectly aligned to hit them. Yeah, so Devil May Cry 2 wound up being one of those games. You know those games where they're like a really weak ripoff of something you love? So playing through the game, it just makes you think, oh man, playing Devil May Cry 2 sure makes me wish I was playing Devil May Cry 3. Like Addy over here, I'm sure Addy knows, like Addy probably playing through Assassin's Creed 3 or playing through Black Flag, you're probably thinking, man, playing through Assassin's Creed 3 really makes me wish I was playing Assassin's Creed 2.
No. I'd say that the 2 might be my least favorite of the trilogy, to be honest.
It's just an example.
It's just an example.
But yeah.
Oh, man. So, next week I'll be playing Devil May Cry 3, and I'll probably be coming in screaming to the podcast about how, oh my god, Devil May Cry 3 is the best, oh fuck yeah, I forgot how good it was. Because, I'm going to be honest, I got so sick of Devil May Cry 2, the instant I finished Lucia's campaign, I would never have finished Devil May Cry 2 if it wasn't for this podcast. I'd have stopped halfway through Dante's campaign and been like, this isn't fucking worth my time. But I finished it for the podcast because I love the viewers. All 3 of them.
Be straight, you love the money.
All that pimp money. All that $2 of it. So, I got so sick of Devil May Cry 2 that the instant I finished Lucia's campaign, I fucking took it out, got rid of Devil May Cry 2, and switched over to Devil May Cry 3. So I've already played through the first 6 levels of Devil May Cry 3. It has aged amazingly. And I'll talk more about it on next week's podcast. But I want to hit the last one. This one's going to be kind of a shared one between me and Pink. Pink and I got to record The Forest, and that recording will probably go up sooner rather than later. And I don't think Pink got any sound throughout that entire recording, sadly. Did you, Pink?
If I did, it was very, very low. Because, when you turned your thing on and it was playing music, I did not hear any of that.
Okay.
You would also mention, sounds in the bushes and whatnot. I was like, I don't hear anything. What are you talking about?
So the game is on another level less scary for you. So pretty much the entirety of the recording can be summed up as Alex shits his pants while Pink wanders off about fairies.
To me, it was just a good time on the beach, but Alex is there just scared out of his mind, thinking he's going to die at any second.
And then the nude cannibals attacked.
Yeah, And then
They did.
They fucking did. Oh, man. I don't want to spoil anything for the recording because I want everyone to see it. But, yeah, they sure fucking did. And, yeah.
And when you most needed the avatar, he disappeared.
I will say that is a very good game. That is a game that I'd like to record as much of it with Pink as I can. And if we are able to finish it, then I'll absolutely be doing another playthrough on my own. Because that game also has several levels of difficulty, so hey, why not? Anyways, I think Pink's going to have something to talk about, but I want to save it for the end because it's going to be spoilery. And I want to make it easy for the audience to, hey, like, if you don't want to be spoiled on this, then just stop here. Right?
Everyone leaves now.
Yeah. Hey, we'll go through what Addy has done, and then when we get to Pink, we'll just say, alright, leave if you don't want to be spoiled on Ant-Man and the Wasp. Alright, so Addy, what have you done in the past week?
Right, so, I told you that we need to come back to Gigantic-ass freaking cliffhangers. I played through D4.
Oh,
Dark Dreams
no.
Don't Die.
Oh, man, yeah. Whew. Yeah, that one's never getting solved.
Nope, it ain't. But,
So that's a Telltale-like game, right? Wasn't that a...
yes. It was supposed to be an episode. It came, but there are 2 episodes, and that's it.
Now, that was made by, was it Swery?
Yes, Swery, I want to say, yeah.
Yes, the same man behind the beautiful Deadly Premonition, which is absolutely a game I want to record at some point, because I want that... I'm going to go ahead and say this. If we ever do a 3-man recording, like, of the supposed Couchless Co-op series, then I'd want our first one to be Deadly Premonition. Because I feel like it would have enough stupid bullshit to satisfy all 3 of us.
But yeah, so I played through it. I gravitated towards it just because it was a murder mystery. And need I say more? But
So is it like full-on Telltale style gameplay, or does it do anything different?
I'd say it's a bit more interesting. It's more point-and-click adventure than Telltale.
Okay, so it was like there's an inventory system and like different puzzle bits?
Yes, kind of. I don't think there was an inventory per se, but there were puzzles. There were times when you needed to just walk through, well, am I spoiling anything? The game is like 3 years old.
It's 3 years old, and I'm going to go ahead and take a shot in the dark and say that there's probably a character in that game named Forrest Kaysen, and he's probably evil.
Forrest Kaysen. I want to say yes. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I just remember how people looked. But basically, I don't even remember the the protagonist's name. But anyway, most of the game takes place on a plane.
A plane?
Yes, the game's concept basically is that you're whoever the bloody protagonist is, I don't remember his name, and what you do is that you are a detective at the Boston police, the Boston police, and you still have your old, like, I want to say your boss, but I'm not sure, bring you cases because you've been trying to figure out who killed your wife. It's a spoiler that it's his wife, but it's pretty obvious, and it becomes that, well, they say it in like the first half of the first episode or so.
Okay, yeah, there's definitely shades of Deadly Premonition here already.
But yeah, so how he wants to go, or how he goes about finding out who killed his wife, or why they killed his wife, or whatever, is by going back in time through mementos, or so he calls these things. Mementos are just random ass objects that he decides that he just decides he can go back in time with.
Okay, I was about to say, if this is a Swery game, it's going to start off as a detective and get steadily more crazy and insane. So where's it gonna get crazy and insane? And apparently it's here.
Okay. No. This is nothing. I was with this. I was just like, okay, it's a Japanese game. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to play it. So, it's like it's the amount of weirdness that I'm like, okay, this seems par for the course. Then, then again, most of the game I thought the weirdness was par for the course. It's just my freaking basically I moved goalposts because first I was like, okay, that detective something or other. Then I was like, okay, I guess we're freaking anime now. Because there's this big like I'm not sure how big exactly, but basically this buff guy who's a steward on the plane, and he's really shady. Well, he was to me he was. Turns out he was actually the antagonist. So, yay me.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that also sounds like Sweary.
yeah, not so subtlety or whatever.
Well, I don't know if it's that so much, or if Sweary like has a thing for deliberately building up an obvious antagonist just to make you think, oh well, it can't be him. He's too obvious, and then it turns out it is him.
Either way, I mean I wasn't against him as the antagonist. The problem that I had with him is that he looks like he looks like a normal person. The thing that sets off alarms first is that he has this inhalator, for things like asthma, and
Oh, and
whenever
Japan's like, he's a cripple, he's evil.
no, it ain't for asthma. He has like super space drugs or whatever in it, and whenever he shoots up, like red mist comes out of his, or not mist, like fog comes out of, or whatever, like clouds, something like that, comes out of his nostrils and mouth.
Oh, so it gives him the
And
ability to breathe fire? Or...
no, it just makes him look weird, and it makes him really high, or like obviously high. And after like there's the big swerve that he is the antagonist, and when you see him as the antagonist, instead of looking like a normal person, like a normal redheaded person, because he's a freaking ginger, instead he looks like the Joker's rejected brother. Like freaking, he has pale ass skin, like he has relatively normal skin when you meet him.
That's
When you meet,
Sweary.
and it's like, I was like, okay, how is he going to look when they reveal him? And I was like, okay, he's just gonna be like a drug dealer or something. No, he's freaking like he's Discount Bane.
Bane.
But other than that, there are other mysterious figures. Like there's a guy in, like, I want to say a doctor's coat with a face mask and all. And what he does is that he speaks really slow. That annoyed me a lot. And he also likes to hit a metal fork and like butter knife together.
A metal fork and butter knife. All right.
Yeah, and most of the game actually, like, how the game goes is that you're in the apartment at first. Another thing that I really freaking that really freaking annoyed me in the game is that they tried to build it like on like a series. And by a series, I mean that you have to sit through the intro every time you start a new episode.
Right, that is definitely in full force with Sweary, because Sweary, like, Deadly Premonition is the most Twin Peaks X-Files ass game ever.
But yeah, there were there were funny things that I liked. Like there's this girl who acts like a cat. I think her name is Amanda, and they treat her like a cat. They freaking don't bat an eye on her acting like a cat. Yet whenever she's introduced, she's introduced as weird girl slash freeloader or something like that.
Weird girl slash freeloader. There we go. That's the kind of style of Japanese bullshit I'm looking for.
But um, what was I going to say? Yeah. So how the game goes is that you normally start in the apartment, or well, if the actual story kicks in, you just start in the plane. But there's actually two different times on the plane. or like maybe 3. I'm not sure, because you start off at one time where you go back first, then after that you get sent back further, and then I want to say that you go back. Yeah, you go back after the first time.
Okay. Yeah, when you first
So
mentioned the plane thing, I was like, how are they going to make different environments on one plane? Oh, fucking time travel. Okay.
yeah, and so like whenever there's this whatchamacallit, a freaking like a guy in parliament or something, and when you first meet him, he's really pissed off at you, and you don't know why. But when you get sent back, you call his family names, and that's why he's pissed off at you when you first meet him. Things
Okay.
like that. Yeah. Um, a thing that I was confused about is that, well, the main problem, I guess, or whatever, in the story is that this senator, that's the word I was looking for, this senator is transporting a pimp, I think, or like a drug dealer or something like that. A mix of the two, probably. He's transporting that guy to ask him things, I think. And the senator gets killed during the plane flight, so you get sent back to discover what happened, because your wife was murdered because of the super alien freaking drug or whatever that the antagonist smokes.
Oh, man. Yeah, this sounds a lot like Deadly Premonition.
Yeah, and basically, to boil this down, um, you meet weird people. The only normalish people are the stewards and the stewardesses, and the steward is the main antagonist. The stewardess is, well, the love interest for one, but she's also a cop. She's not actually a stewardess.
Did you say she's a cup?
A cop.
A cop. Okay.
C-O-P.
I was about to say this guy. It's just fucking weirder even with every step.
Well, if only she was a cop.
Just a fucking
It,
cop
it would
floats
have
up.
been
Oh.
with a gun and a badge.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I played that. I played Shining Resonance something or other, because it has a demo and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Shining Resonance Refrain. That's the game. It's definitely not my kind of game that I can say. It reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy X or X-2 or whichever the one Final Fantasy I played on PlayStation 2 was. But yeah, they in the demo they have you breaking out like a prince who's also like a dragon. Like he's not actually a dragon, he's like a pretty boy, but he has like a dragon inside him. Or something like that, and then he can form a sword from the dragon.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like there's an archer slash mage class or something like that. Then they're called like Dragoness or something like that. Then they sing to the dragons to freaking summon them or something. Weird things like that. It was way too Japanese for my taste, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I could have told you that from the name.
But yeah, but I actually like a lot of JRPGs. Well, I don't like a lot of JRPGs, but I like a lot of JRPG style games.
Is that about all you've
And
done?
yeah, no, what else did I freaking do? I'm bloody forgetting. Right, just today, I had a pretty good glitch in freaking Witcher 3, where my torso disappeared. But yeah, what else did I do? I think I played through the freaking whatchamacallit, the Strange Man series, I wanna say. It's the Something Man series. I think that's what the author gave it. It's a series of RPG Maker horror games.
Okay, RPG Maker. I don't mess around with that.
Why not?
Why would you?
I mean, it does interest me, the concept of being able to make RPGs, but it seems like a lot of fools would make some really bad shit.
No, I mean it's a pre-made game. It was just made up with RPG Maker, so that's how you identify it as whatever. I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, the stories are interesting. Um, the series goes as follows: the Crooked Man, the Sandman, the what was it again? um, the last one is the Hanged Man. So, freaking what the hell? What was the bloody third one? The Boogeyman. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Boogie is written like Boogie, just so they can make the musical joke.
Of course.
Yeah. But it's a series of, I want to say, Japanese games, like actually made by Japanese people, or at least one Japanese guy. I have no idea. They were translated at one point. And yeah, the series is concluded. There will be spin-offs. I want to say there's like 2 in the plans, but the series is more or less concluded. And there are very interesting things. Like in the first game, there's just a monster following you around. Like the Crooked Man is a monster that just follows you around. That somehow like a guy who's a lot like your protagonist summoned to kill the protagonist because he reminded him of himself, and because the protagonist moved into his old house or something like that. Whatever. Yeah, the Sandman is a story about like I want to say 15 to 17-year-old girl who was in the first game. You help her find a thing.
Are we going to explain every single game in the series here, Addy?
I'll try to keep it short. Basically, she gets more or less kidnapped by the Sandman, and then the Sandman falls in love with her, and then she leaves. So that, and then with the last 2 games, instead of actual monsters and fantasy stuff, well, whatever. It's just people doing the crimes. With all of the games that kind of changed tone. I want to say, like, the first game is just your basic horror game. The second game is more fantasy. The third game is more like murder mystery, and I have no idea what the fourth game might qualify it as, aside from not the best way to end the series. But yeah.
I have
That's
no
about
idea what you were talking about. I've never heard of this before, but I mean, it's an RPG Maker series, so why would I?
And yeah, I think that's all I've done. Like, I recorded a freaking video just before shooting this, but I'm not sure if that will ever see the light because it was just a test to check my new setup.
Oh, alright.
Well, were you recording Smite?
No,
There was
I
like a
record.
30-minute window between us playing and doing the podcast.
No, before I played Smite with you,
I gotcha.
I recorded Slime Rancher.
I see. I was like, when did you find time to record an entire episode of something when we were getting ready for the podcast?
I mean, I technically I could have actually recorded it in 30 minutes. The video I shot is like overall 43 minutes or so. So cut some corners and then whatever.
Yeah.
So Pink, now it's your turn.
All right.
So, if you don't want to be spoiled on Ant-Man and the Wasp, stop here. The video ends here for you. Go away.
Yeah. Big week for superheroes for me because I finally finished the latest season of Legends of Tomorrow. I did that typical watch most of the series and then forget about it for 3 months until I get back into it.
What season is this that they are on that you just finished?
Uh, I want to say it's I want to say it's 3, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so they're at 3
I'm
seasons. Shit. That's crazy to me. Like I thought that show was gonna die right out of the fucking gate. Oh man. Did they got rid of Captain Cold, didn't they?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm not watching.
yep. They kill him off at the around the end of the first season, which made me sad. It makes me question why I still bother with the show. But like they consistently bring him back in guest appearances. Like in the second season, uh, past version of himself returns as a villain, and then in the third season, an alternate universe version of him has like 2 episodes with them before he goes back to his other Earth.
Right, right. The alternate universe version from Nazi Earth, where he's the Ray's boyfriend, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. The Ray must have been real weird because they implemented him in a cartoon first, right?
Right. It, either first or after. I'm honestly not sure.
I don't see how they'd make the Ray work in live action.
I'm just as confused there as you.
Okay, so have you not seen the episode, or did they not make it work in live action?
Oh no, he's there in live action, but I'm just not sure how that would work in what am I as not a cartoon show is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. Man, what season is Arrow on? 7?
Something crazy like that.
Who would have thought Green Arrow would get so much crap? But it isn't Green Arrow, really. It's just Batman with a bow.
Yep.
How about that? Fuck that show. Now, didn't they introduce Isis as a member of the League of the Legends of Tomorrow?
Possibly.
Right.
No, she never gets her name.
I I heard from a family member who's like way more interested in the Arrowverse that they're introducing Isis, like, and it was supposed to be a big thing because she was a Muslim superhero and it was going to be like innovative because she's a Muslim superhero in a TV show. And hey, and I was like, that's great, sure, but did they have to fucking go with the one named Isis?
Yep.
And is she even Muslim in the comics? Because like Black Adam's older than Islam, I know that. He's going back to like ancient Egyptian times, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if like, I never put much thought into that.
Yep. I think it's a modern change because I don't recall any of the Black Adam stuff having anything to do with Muslim stuff, but
Well,
I'm not well versed in DC anyway, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
I'm going to eventually get around to reading 52, which was the story that introduced Isis and Black Adam Jr. Was that the kid's name? No, it was some other. He was named after some other Egyptian god. And the weird
Osiris, I think.
Osiris, yes. And there was also Sobek, right?
Yeah.
So I've never read that story. I'll probably get around to reading it eventually. But yeah, other than that, I can't really remember having heard anything about Legends of Tomorrow recently. But other than that, what was the other thing you had to do with superheroes? Because I feel like you had something else other than Ant-Man and the Wasp and Legends of Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I just started season 4 of The Flash. I'm not sure when that went up on Netflix. It could have been there for quite a decent amount of time. I just didn't realize it. It wasn't until I was flipping through Netflix randomly one day and saw that they had, 4 seasons. I'm like, wait, isn't the 4th season the newest season? So I checked that out, and it was indeed.
That's crazy to me upon thinking, because they're up to that amount of seasons. That meant they only got one season of The Flash out before they decided to fucking launch Legends of Tomorrow. That was awfully arrogant of them.
Yeah.
That should not have worked, but it did.
So far, I'm only like maybe 4 episodes in, or three or four. I'm not quite certain. But off the bat, it's probably better than season 3, but it's still not very good right now, I'd say. Like, season 1 was fantastic. Season 2 was good. Season 3 was a train wreck and a half. So hopefully season 4 will pick up the pieces of what worked and what didn't and make a decent season again.
I feel like that's one of those things where it gets proportionally worse the more it focuses on Iris.
Yes, Iris is a just flat out terrible character. Like, ever since the first couple of episodes in the first season, I was like, I'm not a big fan of Iris. It's like, some episodes she'll have moments where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can understand why they're so intent on making her a focus of the series. I can roll with this. And then 10 minutes later in the same episode, I'm like, why is Iris still alive?
I understand why she's alive. She just needs to go the fuck away.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember her being in the first season and not having a problem with her. And then I've heard about the shit that happens in the later seasons. And it's like, okay, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well,
Season 3 was entirely about, the main plot was entirely about saving Iris in the future of her impending death. So there's a reason that's the worst season of them all. Like, nobody really wanted to see that happen. The character they do sacrifice in the end is the one that we all wanted to see saved.
Did Yobird fucking kill her? Yobird
Who's
Thawne?
what?
Reverse Flash. Did Reverse Flash kill her?
No. They
Oh.
didn't use Reverse Flash in the 3rd season.
Oh, that's weird. In the original DC canon, it was Reverse Flash that killed Iris.
Yeah, and that Iris like gets transported to the future where she's actually from for like a decade. Like, a lot of weird stuff with that Iris, but
I was about to say,
this Iris is nothing like the comic Iris.
for several reasons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like her dad. Joe West's a lot cooler than Iris.
Yeah. Overall, I'm fine with Joe as well. This Iris really grates on your nerves and makes you question if you really want to continue watching the show, which more than often than not leads to a no from me. So I often take breaks during it all.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I like Grant. He's cool. Yeah, I love Tom. He's awesome. Cisco, all the rest, they're all great, but Iris, no. Just no.
What else was there?
Aside from that, I think we're down to Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay, we should be.
Right. Have you seen it?
No, I have not, and I will not be seeing it.
Oh, no.
Cause I really don't. I remember when they first announced Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man, and I was one of the many people who were like, man, this is going to blow up in Marvel's face. And then Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and it was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then Ant-Man came out, and it was like,
Yeah.
I can't, like, Ant-Man can have cool moments, like when he turns giant, or when he shrinks down and rides Hawkeye's arrow, which, turn that into a double entendre. But I have utterly no interest in Ant-Man as a separate property. Wasp interests me a little bit more, but not much.
Yeah. So, I've only seen the first Ant-Man once. I really did enjoy it, but for some reason I've still only seen it once. Like, I didn't even see it in theaters. Probably because we were moving cross country at the time, but I don't recall. No, I was working on the farm at the time, so I didn't have time for that. I have no time for childish things.
Ha!
So yeah, only saw Ant-Man once. Really liked it. Probably wasn't my absolute favorite Marvel movie, but it was still serviceable. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Saw that in theaters yesterday, and previously my top three Marvel movies of all time was uh, The Winter Soldier, Doctor Strange, and Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm seriously considering bumping one of those down in favor of Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Seriously?
Seriously,
I could
it
not.
was.
I could.
I did not see that coming whatsoever, but it was really friggin' good.
Okay, like, well, what's its strong points? Like, does it have good action? Because I remember the major thing that was missing from the first Ant-Man was like, there's so much fun they could be having with the Ant-Man, like, for designing fighting scenes, and they had no fun with that at all.
Yes, I feel that this one is much stronger in its action scenes than the previous one.
Okay, yeah. Like, well, I also they probably get to have a bit more fun with Wasp since,
Yes.
firstly, you can take Evangeline Lilly a lot more seriously than you can take, what's that fucking guy's name, Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
No offense to Paul Rudd, but he's a comedian and he looks like a comedian. He's got a comedian's face and everything.
Yeah.
Not what. It was questionable casting from the beginning. I get that they're doing it because Ant-Man needs to be a guy you take less seriously because his power is shrinking and controlling ants. People are going to make fun of him no matter what. But I feel like
Yeah.
they'd have better action scenes for the Wasp. Firstly, because Evangeline Lilly fits it better. Secondly, because the Wasp at least gets the stingers and the crazy shit that Ant-Man doesn't.
Yes. And they totally do that because Evangeline is the real star in all the action sequences for the most part. Rudd takes a back seat there. Like, if anything, I would have liked to see change that movie more was to feature Wasp more prominently. Like, she does get a almost equal amount of screen time as Ant-Man does, but like, you leave the theater wanting to see more of her.
How much of there is of the classic Wasp of Janet?
Not very much.
Okay, so, huh? That is a little bit strange. It feels like they'd want to have. I don't know. I guess it's because Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas are both kind of old, but it does feel lame. Then that we'll probably never get a proper Hank Pym Janet Van Dyne fight, at least.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty much impossible to build anything out of Hank Pym as a character now, and has been for like 30 years now because of his infamous association with beating Janet.
Yep.
Whatever. The thing I've read up on the plot though, and it ends exactly as we all predicted. Like we all said, all right, the movie they get to the end, and then Michael Douglas fades away because Thanos. I heard it goes a couple steps further.
Yeah. I had said in my forum post that I was expecting them to traumatize us by killing Cassie. They didn't, so that was kind of a relief, but everybody else is basically gone.
Yeah, this is a thing where, like, I know they're trying to get across that what Thanos did is horrible, so that people who believe in what Thanos is doing still won't argue for Thanos. They don't want people saying, oh, Thanos is right, because they don't want Thanos as the villain to be sympathetic. Too sympathetic, rather. So they are trying to overcompensate. But it's seriously, at this point, like, Thanos said he'd kill half the people. He's killed fucking 75%. Come on. All of the Guardians but Rocket, dead. All of the Avengers that are newer than fucking 2010, dead. 3/4 of the Ant-Man cast, dead. What the fuck?
You got to take into account all the pedestrians. It's like, those guys are safe now, right? Statistically speaking, they're all safe.
Perhaps. Evidently, they don't really care. Apparently, Thanos wasn't really exact with those numbers. I guess the Infinity Gauntlet, he was like, hey, I'm going to need to cut down the population of the universe by half. And then the Gauntlet said, best I can do is 75%.
On Earth, anyway. I mean, maybe some planets out there got lucky. Like, they had less death than us.
So, other than that, what am I trying to think of? I heard it fucking introduced time travel. Is that true?
I don't recall, honestly.
Someone said like they go into the quantum realm and mess with quantum mechanics.
Yes. There's all kinds of quantum stuff in that film, but time travel, I don't believe, is one of them. There are certainly time portals in the quantum realm, but those do not get explored. Time travel does not factor into Ant-Man and the Wasp whatsoever, to my knowledge.
Okay, so everybody's
Unless I had a quick 5-minute nap in between something very important and completely missed out, but I don't think I did.
okay. So everyone's already theorizing this is how they're gonna walk back the snap from Infinity War.
Ah, yeah. I can understand people theorizing that, but I just don't see it
Well, the thing
happening
is,
quite like that.
Infinity War. Have you heard about the cast shots for Infinity War? They do
No.
go back in time. They go back in time because there's Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson were wearing their old outfits, and like Chris Evans was clean shaven again, and Scarlett Johansson was back to being a redhead. So they're going back in time at least to the first Avengers.
Right. Not surprised about them going back in time, but I guess it might make sense to use the quantum realm time holes as as a way of going back.
Because
It wouldn't be.
Because otherwise, Ant-Man is useless. Otherwise, why would they take Ant-Man? Right?
Yeah. If it works out that way, then it's going to be Ant-Man going back alone, because right now he's kind of stuck in the quantum realm.
Right, and the cast for shots did include it was Paul Rudd in the full Ant-Man gear, so it's probably just going to be Ant-Man. Avengers
Yeah.
4, Ant-Man's Adventures Through Time.
So
There
should be pretty interesting.
there were rumors that it was going to be called Avengers Forever, named after the famous storyline from the late 90s. However, there was apparently like a while ago a producer accidentally put on his resume Avengers Endgame. Whoops! So they're probably going to change that title.
Well, I'm okay with that, because that just means we've got the ability to have an actual Avengers Forever. Because if Fox actually does go to Disney, that gives us Kang.
Ah, maybe. We can hope, but it still won't have Captain America or Iron Man there, and it won't feel right without them.
Yeah. I don't know. Robert Downey Jr. might surprise us all and just be Ant-Man for the entire rest of his career.
Did you say Ant-Man?
Did I say Ant-Man?
You said
I
Ant-Man.
meant to say Iron Man.
That's
Yeah.
the time
Robert
travel.
Downey Jr. is going to be Ant-Man now. Hope you're all happy.
The time travel shenanigans are gonna fuck things up real bad.
Robert Downey Jr. returning to the Iron Ant.
The Iron Ants.
Ant-Man's like, I need to fix things. I need to go back to when I was a baby, and he accidentally swaps Tony and himself at birth. And then the time space continuum just fucks itself. That's always
Everyone dies.
yeah.
Again.
That's always the issue with going back in time in any work of fiction. Is it like how does that work? Because by going back in time to fix a problem, inherently the problem never arises. So then you, in the present time, never need to go back in time to prevent the problem from happening in the first place. So if you don't go back in time to prevent the problem from happening, then the problem happens. And if the problem happens, you go back in time to prevent it. And it just becomes like, what the fuck?
Yep.
My brain hurts. I hate time travel.
It's hard to work with.
Time travel is the number one thing in writing that it just immediately I'm like, I am turning my brain off. I am ignoring everything. Whatever you show me, I'll accept.
Yep.
Fuck it. I've never watched the Back to the Future movies. Is this how they go? Have you guys not watched Back to the Future either?
No,
Nope.
I've seen them all.
You've seen them all?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh. So, is that about all you got to say about Ant-Man and the Wasp?
One more thing I will say about it is that the great scenes. Did I cut out there because my thing turned off?
You cut out a little bit. I think I heard it has one of the greatest scenes.
Yes, one of the greatest scenes in MCU history.
Alright, you have totally cut out. We missed all of that.
Ahem. Let me start over and hope this thing is still working. Like I see it flashing on and off just a little bit right now. But it has one of the greatest scenes in MCU history, and if you don't mind spoilers, I will go ahead and spoil it for you.
Alright.
So, I honestly think they might have uploaded it to YouTube because I saw something on Facebook about it, but I'm not sure. I'm not gonna bother to check though. But in one of the scenes, Luis, if you recall, he's basically on a truth serum, and it provides possibly the funniest scene in the history of movies ever.
I wasn't that much into Luis's stuff from the first movie.
Then you might not like the scene as much as I did. But either way, I still thought it was the funniest scene in the entire movie.
Okay.
But that's all I have to say about it. I'm not going to get too deep here because I just watched it yesterday and then went straight to bed because it was like 4 when I got home.
Oh boy. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And night shift, 4 is like midnight for me.
Jesus. Alright, well, I think that's about all we got to talk about this week. I'm excited to play Devil May Cry 3. I'm probably going to play a shit ton of it as soon as this recording stops, assuming I've got nothing else to do. Alright, I'll see you folks later. Addy, say bye. Fuck you, Addy.
Which Harry? The pink one or the other one?
Whichever one is willing to answer.
The one hiding in a corner right now. Like, he's not associated with us, but he's there.
Yeah, the one in your dreams. Alright, later folks.